Hello there. You may call me Miss Introvert, and here on this channel we write, we edit, we learn, and we grow. And I am growing right along with you guys, so we're really all in the same boat. Today we're talking about writing hooks. Like, beginning of chapter hooks, not like, friggin' Captain Hook hooks. You know that term that your teachers used in your essay writing classes, in your composition classes, that you have to use like hooks to hook your audience so they keep reading? Well, if you forgot or you're somehow new to writing, that is what a hook is. And there's more to just hooking your audience than meets the eye, and we're going to learn all about that today in this video. Because this is a very important skill to have as a writer. In fact, the majority of our audience that we're going to be presenting our work to has a very small attention span. So the sooner you hook them, the sooner they're going to keep reading your book, and they will hopefully like it. But first, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like the content on this channel. We talk all about different aspects of writing, from book plotting to character development to the different voices in our writing heads to poetry to all sorts of things. We have it all here on this channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment down below what is your favorite part of the writing process, or maybe your least favorite part of the writing process that you're in right now in your current work in progress. Send me some of your original poetry via my mailing list, and I would love to cheer you on and give you some feedback on it. And if you're interested in becoming a beta reader, there's a Google form that is linked in the description. So please fill that out if you'd like to help me beta read and get my newest debut book to be readable for its audience. So yeah, fill that out. Again, linked in the description, and we can talk about it. Now let's get started. Number one, don't overthink it. Let's just get this out of the way. Writing a hook is not for the drafting stage. If anything, if you're like in a time crunch, save it for last, especially if it's a beginning hook. And unless you feel really confident about the hook that you've written, save it for later. If you are in the editing stage, you might be picturing yourself as a reader that has never read this work that you've written before, which is hard because you wrote it and you know everything about it, but we have to picture ourselves as a reader who's never read it before. And if that reader is like, yeah, I'm not reading this, after reading the first opening line, that's normal. It's supposed to be changed. And this could take several tries. But in the drafting stage, don't overthink it. Try not to even think about it. Just cut to the chase of the first chapter, or whatever chapter you're on. You can even leave the hook blank and just move on to the chapter with the intention of just having the bare minimum, just so you can have a drafted chapter or a drafted poem or whatever you're working on. Editing is where we make these chapters or these works in progress readable. We make them intriguing, and this will be done with several tedious tries. Therefore, the hook will be written in several tedious tries, and again, that is normal. The amount of times that I've had to change around my first chapter or my hook, or switch my first chapter to my second chapter and the second chapter to the first because it just sounded better, just the amount of times I've done that, it's so many. So just get used to the fact that whatever you wrote first, no matter how profound it sounded in the moment, is not going to always and forever be your first line. It is undoubtedly going to change drastically. Some authors even recommend deleting the first line that you wrote altogether, or the first few lines, and just cutting right to the chase, and make the second line the first line. They find that their second or third line sounds much better than the first. The same thing can go for the end of the chapter, but we're talking about that later. Overall, it's going to want to be something that keeps your reader interested and invested, and makes them want to keep reading. You also want it to be memorable, so that they can look back on that first line with fondness when they finish the book, like we all do with authors that we know and books that we trust and our favorite opening lines of all. But those are just beginning hooks. There are ending hooks too. Number two, how to finish a chapter. Now, by ending hooks, I don't mean the hooks at the end of your book. Although if you have a cliffhanger at the end of your book, those are really helpful. But these are when you reach the end of your chapter and you want the reader to move on to the next one, without thinking that, yeah, I've read enough for the night, it's time to go to bed. You want them to stay up late until 3 a.m. or 5 in the morning. Don't stay up till 5 in the morning reading their book. Make them do that. Don't do that. You guys need to, you readers need to take care of yourselves. I'm not even kidding. What I usually do, and what I usually see in other books, is this major event that happens and you cut it off right at the last second, or right when the tension hits its biggest tension moment. Or it's at a very profound stop in a line, and it just leaves so much suspense and anticipation for the reader and for the characters and for the story, and then it teases the next chapter. You might need to readjust your outline to fit that need. Maybe that was going to be the middle of that chapter where you revealed that thing, but you might want to cut those 2 chapters in half so that they keep moving on, and maybe attach some chapters together. Whatever you have to do to make that hook count. Maybe this chapter had a few boring parts and you got to take them out. Maybe you have to keep up the pace. Maybe you have to add in some dialogue that's very conflicting, lots of arguing between the characters, or something really passive-aggressive, so that the reader keeps being interested in what these characters are going through and how they're interacting. Those are what I call middle hooks. We're talking about ending hooks right now, but just for clarification, middle hooks are when you're kind of in the middle parts of a chapter, the middle parts of a book, and you're just bored out of your mind, and if you're bored, the audience is going to be bored too, so you gotta step it up a little bit with all of the interesting scenes. But for ending hooks, keep that momentum going up until the end. And you don't want to abruptly stop a chapter and then start another one, because you don't want the reader to feel like the story is rushed. There are right and wrong ways to put in ending hooks. You want them to feel like this pace is comfortable, like it's still tension and it might make them a little bit uncomfortable, but in like a storytelling way, not in a pacing way, if that makes any sense. You want them to enjoy the process of continuing to read. Maybe your characters are in the middle of some squabble, and then one of them reveals something very urgent to the other characters, and then that conversation stops and continues in the next chapter. Maybe your chapters are short and you want to use that to your advantage, so you keep those chapters very short and keep those conversations stopping and starting. Again, the reader is going to question themselves if they have time for one more chapter at 1 in the morning. And if that starter and stopper between chapters is just really, really good, which I've read books like that before, and it can be really, really good, they're gonna keep reading. Because they probably have time for just one more. Time will stand still so they can read this book. Doesn't. Number 3, middle hooks. Remember talking about middle hooks earlier? Those are going to come in handy for the reader, but also for you as well. So let's say you're in the middle of your chapter or the middle of your book, and as writers, we know that being in the middle of anything is so frustrating. So it's time to add in the middle hooks, and this is going to be when you're in the drafting stage. And as you're in the drafting stage, you're going to be leaving little Easter eggs of tension or momentum or pacing for yourself when you go through the editing stage and you have to go through this middle section all over again. Because we want it to be fun for you too. We don't want it to be boring. I'm editing and I see characters arguing with each other, or a character falls back on their main goal or one of their side goals, or if there's some really urgent information that comes out to the characters, or there's a huge plot twist, and I'm reading it from my book, I want to keep editing. Getting creative, changing up the outline, creating places where there's more tension and more momentum is going to be so helpful when you come back to this long and tedious process that is the editing stage. So get into that creative headspace and do whatever you can to make the book sound interesting to you. Again, this is the drafting stage, so there's not supposed to be any pressure, but it's supposed to be fun, so have fun with it. Make your dialogue more angsty or clever. You are the very first editor that's looking at your book, which is weird to say, but it's true. So you want to keep yourself hooked. And this can backfire. You might look back on this writing and be like, why on earth did I write that? No one will like that. And that's okay, because you're still in the safety of the editing stage, so don't even sweat it. And that is pretty much all I have to say about middle hooks. They are mostly for you, not for your audience, and eventually they are going to be for your audience because you're going to have polished those middle sections, that they're not in that stage of, why did I write this? No one's going to like this. They will eventually as you keep polishing and showing it to other writers, and I wish the best of luck to all of you. Once again, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, comment down below what your favorite or least favorite part of the writing process is. If you want poetry read, subscribe to my email list, and if you would like to be a beta reader, fill out the Google form in the description, and thanks for watching. Stay basic. Okay, bye.